Bears are extremely intelligent. They usually try to avoid humans. Sometimes, however, they do attack humans. It is worth noting that a bear in the wild is not a good-natured Winnie the Pooh from the cage in the zoo. It is a real killing machine. A fast, agile, cunning, and strong beast. Able to move almost silently, it can fell a tree, drag a moose, or even a large bull. Bears can attack either out of fear and defense of their territory or offspring, or out of hunger or other reasons. Therefore, it is important to remember to take precautions and, if possible, avoid situations that could lead to an encounter with a bear. Click the like button and subscribe right now. Welcome to Wild Assault. Deep Siberian taiga, lack of weapons, food, transportation, and a fierce predator mad with cold following on his heels. This is exactly the situation in which the hero of our today's story finds himself. The roach bear is one of the largest living land predators. Strong, ferocious, fast, and intelligent, plus perfectly equipped with killing tools, powerful jaws, and paws. This beast is able to hunt and skillfully kill even very large animals, such as wild boars, elk, and other deer. Attack livestock, including large bulls. But with such capabilities, bears spend most of the season, as long as they are not in hibernation, eating not at all like predators. Not everyone knows that the most common activity for this animal is to graze in a meadow or forest, glade like a cow, consuming grass by the kilograms. From leaving the den in the spring to hibernation in the fall, a bear consumes 2-3 tons of plant matter. This includes not only grass, but also leaves of trees and shrubs, mountain ash, aspen, willow, and berries or bread grains such as oats are favorite foods. The bear gets the main protein supplement to its plant-based diet by eating carrion or live small things such as ants, beetle larvae, mice, and voles, which bears are quite skillful at catching. Why is this so? The reason is that a female bear raising cubs does not teach them how to hunt, and the threat to cubs from adult males, cannibalism, reinforces fear of large animals for a long time. The event took place in the winter of 1978. Makar went fishing in the forest. A few kilometers from the village, in the taiga, there was a waterlogged lake. Near the pond, there was a hunting tent made of planks and a small 2-tiered farmhouse for provisions. These buildings were used in summer for waterfowl hunting. Having arrived at the lake, Makar cut a couple of holes and started fishing. He tied the horse with a sled to a tree on the shore. He was keen on fishing and didn't look around. At some point, he saw his horse and sled run away along the lake. "It's gone," the man thought. And he took a few steps towards the fleeing horse when he noticed a movement with his side vision. A huge bear came out of the taiga and ran after the fleeing horse. But after running a bit, the animal stopped and looked at the fisherman. Makar understood how an encounter with a jackass in the taiga ends. A few years earlier, cases of attack by a connecting rod in the vicinity of the village had been recorded. But then there had been hunters who had managed to neutralize the predator, albeit with consequences. Here the situation is much more complicated and dangerous, and it is not a juicy task to fight off the beast. Makar began to slowly retreat to the hunting buildings. The rooster bear took one last look at the departing horse and went toward the fisherman, gradually increasing in speed. The man managed to run to the farm building, climb to the second tier on the outside stairs, and close the door behind him. The predator rushed after him. Makar felt several powerful shocks in the area of the door. Then the predator began to roar, running around the structure, at times hitting and scratching the walls. The man's hands held the door, which opened outward. There was no bolt mechanism on the inside. The door was locked only from the street side. In the utility room, where Makar was sitting, there was straw, old clothes, ropes, and a flask. The fisherman managed to fix the door of the entrance with the help of the ropes, to which he pushed the flask. The big bear wandered around for a while, grumbling, but the worst was ahead. After a few hours, the predator began to pounce on the room. He hit the walls, scratched. Partially, the beast managed to tear out a few boards. The whole building shook. The man was saved by the fact that he was on the upper tier. At a height of about 1.5 meters, while the bear predator managed to break an opening to the lower tier, but there was no one there. The fisherman's greatest fear was that the beast would break important supports and the whole structure would collapse. He understood that there was nowhere to wait for help. Cell phones didn't exist then. His wife and child had gone to town for a few days, so no one would notice his absence from home. Evening came, and then night. The attacks of the crank on the structure had stopped by this time. Everything had quieted down. The man, of course, did not sleep, sitting in the dark, trying to warm himself. In the morning, the fisherman opened the door and looked out. After a couple of hours, the man slowly descended the stairs, and without leaving his hiding place, he started to look around. Carefulness did not fail him from behind the hut, which stood a few meters away. First, the bear's head appeared, and then the predator rushed to the fisherman. Makar confessed to his interlocutors that he faintly remembered how he found himself back inside the farm building, and even somehow pushed down the ladder, which before seemed to stand firmly frozen in the snow. The jackass roared, walking in circles. The man could literally hear his breathing outside. The day passed, and by nightfall it began to get colder. The fisherman had an idea how to start a fire. He threw a bundle of straw inside the metal flask and set it on fire. Then he kept a small flame inside the flask by throwing in some scraps of old clothes lying in the farm building. The smoke accumulated in the room, which did not have time to escape through the gaps in the roof and walls. But it was not so dark, and it was not cold anymore. The metal flask was heated by the fire. It was quiet at night, with only occasional sounds coming from the forest. Makar sat for a long time listening, keeping a small fire going. He did not notice how he fell asleep. He woke up because someone shouted, calling his name. With difficulty, Makar untied the rope holding the door. His hands were very cold, and opened it. There were 2 sleds and 2 groups of men, some with rifles, standing near the ice hole and his gear. They were his fellow villagers. There was no bear, though there were trails all around. The hunters followed the trail, but on that day they did not find the rooster bear. He was tracked down a few days later, not far from the lake. The fisherman returned home safely. It turned out that he owed his rescue to a horse which had run into the village on its own and wandered around the yard. Neighbors noticed the harnessed horse, and when they realized that the owner was gone, they guessed that something had happened. The men quickly packed up and went to the forest to look for the missing man. It's almost impossible to stay alive after an encounter with a mauling bear. An adult bear weighs almost half a ton, and when it rises on its hind legs, it becomes taller than any basketball player. They run at speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour. And a paw strike is 4 times more powerful than a heavyweight boxer. Their teeth can tear through metal with ease. At that time, Makar had no special means to protect himself from bears, but he managed to save himself. Today, there are many special means of protection from bears, such as bear whistles, bear sprayers, special clothes and shoes, and even tasers for self-defense. All of these make an encounter with a bear much safer and help prevent attacks. Self-defense stun guns, if needed, can be an effective way to deter bears. However, it is important to remember that an encounter with a bear always carries potential dangers. So it is important to follow all the rules of safe behavior in the wilderness and be prepared for possible situations. In addition to special tools, it is important to remember the basic rules of behavior when encountering a bear. For example, you should not get too close to a bear, you should not shout or run away from it, you should not leave food in a visible place, etc. Also, it is recommended to study the specific behavior of bears and their species to know how to respond to their behavior in different situations. Remember that having special means of protection does not guarantee complete safety, so it is better to prevent danger in advance than to try to fight it at the last moment. Marina Fokina from Sayanogorsk, Republic of Caucasia, is a fighting girl. For her, the best vacation is to get out for a couple or 3 days in the forest with friends. The nature allows her to do so. Literally 200 kilometers away from her home is the Ergaki Nature Park, which is famous for its picturesque landscapes and opportunities for active recreation. Marina loves hiking, biking, and rock climbing. Together with friends, they often organize picnics in the fresh air, cook kebabs on the barbecue, play volleyball or frisbee. Every time Marina goes to nature, she feels full of energy and excitement. Returning from a hike, she feels that she has recharged her batteries and is ready for new difficulties and victories. Marina has been going here for a quarter of a century now, since high school. On that day, June 12, 2015, she headed into the woods with her 5-year-old child, sister, nephew, and 72-year-old friend. On the way, they stopped at a river, walked through the woods, and enjoyed the beauty of nature. When they arrived at the place, they set up a tent, cooked dinner on the fire, and spent a fun evening in each other's company. The next day, they went for a walk in the mountains, conquered several peaks, enjoyed stunning views from the heights. Every day was filled with new impressions, the atmosphere of freedom and joy. Marina is sure that vacation in nature is the best way to relax, forget about problems, and enjoy beautiful moments in life. She believes that such trips help not only to rest physically, but also to mentally tune in to positive vibrations. That day, Marina went to get berries to make compote. She took her 5-year-old son with her so that he could enjoy nature and help pick the berries. She found a great place where the berries were especially juicy and flavorful. They traveled deeper into the forest, getting farther and farther away from where their tent was. Suddenly, when they were already far away from the main camp, Marina heard strange sounds. She stopped to see what the noise was. Her son looked at his mom in surprise and asked what it was. Marina replied that she didn't know, but they had better head back to the tent. They turned to go back the way they came, but suddenly they heard the roar of a beast. Marina realized that they were in a dangerous situation and needed to act quickly. She quickly picked her son up in her arms and ran in the direction where the roar was coming from. Her heart was beating like crazy, but she didn't stop. It was a moose that they had accidentally provoked by their presence. The moose began to chase after them, leaping through bushes and trees. Marina was afraid they wouldn't be able to get away from him, but amazingly they found their way out of the forest and ended up in a clearing where they could watch as the moose stopped and began to survey the area. Realizing that the moose was no longer chasing them, Marina hugged her son and asked if he was okay. The son, though frightened, nodded, expressing his understanding and gratitude to his mother for her protection. Together they walked back to the tent, remembering this exciting moment of nature's encounter. Back at camp, she told her sister everything. Her sister was very disturbed by the story she had heard, but at the same time admired Marina and her determination. Marina told her sister that they were a little worried, but overall they felt good. They decided to rest and take it easy at the camp for a while before making any decisions. They made dinner and went to bed. At first she thought it was probably just a tree falling. Then she thought it was a wolf, but it turned out to be a bear. And it started biting her. It was very painful, but Marina was more afraid for her children. She saw the beast swinging at her son. Then it seemed to her that the bear chewed off his leg, and Marina was so furious. She decided to kill the bear. She remembered that she had left her axe outside to chop logs for the fire. She crawled out of the tent and grabbed it with her broken arm. In a state of shock, strength comes from nowhere. But the predator saw her and clung to her leg. At that moment, the sister and children ran out of the tent, and the bear was not interested in anyone else. People were just an obstacle on its way to the food supply. The tourists were able to get out of the forest alive and call rescuers. Marina believes that if she had gone at him with an axe, it would have only angered him, and then they would not have been saved. They had seen bears on hikes before, but somehow from afar. She was aware that they were there, but it seemed that they would never be touched by them, especially in summer. Then the gamekeeper explained to them that it was at this period that they start their rut, and the males simply lose their minds. And here they were with their food, and he was flattered by their tasty treats. And the bear's nose is sensitive. In general, the main rules of a tourist are not to keep food in the tent and to leave a fire for the night. But that night it was raining, and they decided to take the food with them so that it wouldn't get wet. This was a fatal mistake, Marina admits. The bear managed to tear her son's leg and side and almost scalped her older friend. She still hasn't recovered from the shock. Marina was even less lucky. Doctors in Abakan, the capital of the Republic, were literally picking up her face piece by piece. The jaw dangled as if on hinges. The bite was literally a millimeter away from the brain and optic nerves. When she got to the hospital, the doctors didn't think she was going to live. And by the second day, she was already getting up on her own, even doing exercises. She had no idea that the situation was so serious. Then she realized that everything would not be the same as before. Marina is now 38. She has already had several plastic surgeries. The nerve endings on the left side of her face are particularly damaged, and her eye blinks only once. Marina is recovering from the bear attack with tenacity, fighting for her life and her health every day. She is undergoing rehabilitation, doing facial exercises to restore her face to its natural look. Her willpower and optimism inspire everyone around her. And she once again believes in her ability to overcome all difficulties. Marina has undoubtedly become the hero of her story, showing everyone that even in the most difficult situations you can find the strength and courage to fight for your life. Her story reminds us of the importance of struggle and optimism in any life circumstances. And recently, Marina went back to that very clearing in the forest and tied a ribbon there, to let everyone know that her spirit will not be broken by any bear. Despite all the terrible consequences of the bear attack, Marina remained strong and determined. She is grateful to the rescuers who helped them get out of the forest and grateful to life that they all survived. She is now even more careful when hiking and always follows the rules of safety in the forest. It was a lifelong lesson that Marina will never forget. But she didn't let fear and pain break her. And now every time she sees the ribbon in the clearing, she remembers her strength and determination.